I sat in stunned silence, my mind unable to fully grasp the weight of what Mark had just revealed. My fingers gripped my glass so tightly that they were starting to ache, the cold glass contrasting sharply with the warmth coursing through my veins. The words Mark had spoken shattered everything I thought I knew about my life, about the woman I loved. His voice was calm, but the truth he was delivering was anything but. I visited a friend recently, Mark began, pausing as if unsure how to continue. And when I got there, I found him with your wife. They didn't even try to hide it. Instead of being embarrassed, they actually invited me to join them. My breath caught in my throat, my mind trying to make sense of what I had just heard. What? I croaked, my voice barely a whisper. Mark shifted uncomfortably in his seat, rubbing his hands over his face, clearly repulsed by the memory. I wasn't supposed to find out like this, but when I walked in, there she was, naked with him. And the worst part? They acted like it was completely normal, like it was something they'd done 100 times before. There was no shame, no remorse, just an invitation, like they were expecting me. A sickening feeling churned in my stomach, and my pulse throbbed in my ears. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. I could feel Mark's pity, but it did nothing to soften the pain. Who? I managed to ask, barely able to force the word out. Daniel. Mark said after a long pause. Your gym buddy. Your friend. The guy who you've had over for dinner. He even asked you for relationship advice, man. He's the one. My mind raced. Daniel, my so-called friend. I felt fiery rage slowly building inside me, but it was a cold, calculated anger. My wife, the woman I had trusted and built a life with, had been sneaking around with this man behind my back, and worse, they thought I would never find out. How long? I asked through gritted teeth. Mark hesitated, clearly torn, but I needed to know. AWOL, I think. From what I gathered, this isn't new. The way they acted when I walked in, like there was nothing to hide, like they never thought you'd figure out. The world around me seemed to blur, and my hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms. My heart raced with the crushing realization that my wife had not only betrayed me, but had done so without a second thought, and she thought she could get away with it. I took a slow, deliberate breath and pushed the anger down, replacing it with something far more dangerous: control. I sat back, my expression cold, devoid of the hurt I was feeling. They think I'll never find out, I said, my voice dangerously calm. They think they can keep humiliating me and get away with it. Mark eyed me warily. What are you going to do? I took a deliberate sip of my drink, my mind already racing with a plan. They made one mistake. What's that? Mark asked, leaning forward slightly. They underestimated me. I didn't sleep that night, not from heartbreak, that had passed the moment Mark had spoken those words. No, I stayed awake because I was already planning my revenge. It wasn't going to be messy or emotional. Cheaters expected rage. They expected fights and accusations. What they didn't expect was a cool, calculated response. They didn't expect me to take everything from them, piece by piece. The next day, I got to work. First, I needed proof. Mark's word wasn't enough. I needed evidence. I called a private investigator, someone I knew from work who specialized in these kinds of situations. Within 24 hours, I had everything I needed: photos, videos, text messages, everything neatly compiled in a folder. My stomach twisted as I looked through the images of my wife in Daniel's bed, laughing, kissing him the way she used to kiss me. The texts were even worse. Sophia! He still has no clue. It's honestly hilarious. I think I could tell him, and he wouldn't do a damn thing. Daniel, he's weak. You said it yourself. He's predictable. Safe. He's not man enough to stop you from getting what you really want. The words echoed in my mind. Weak. Predictable. They had no idea what they were dealing with. The next phase of my plan was to set the perfect trap. Sophia and I were supposed to attend a high-profile charity gala at the end of the week. It was an event she loved, a chance for her to flaunt our perfect marriage in front of the city's elite. I decided this would be the perfect place to expose everything. But first, I needed to make sure everything was in place. The night of the gala, I walked into our house with a mask of normalcy. Sophia was sitting on the couch, her eyes glued to her phone. She looked up at me, flashing a smile that I knew was nothing but a mask. I smiled back, suppressing the disgust rising in my chest. "Hey, babe," she purred. "How was your day?" "Busy," I replied, suppressing the urge to recoil from her touch. "But I was thinking, why do we make this gala extra special? We've been so caught up in routine lately. It might be nice to celebrate us." Her eyes lit up with excitement. "Oh, I like that idea," she said, placing a hand on my chest. "What do you have in mind?" I grinned, but it was a smile full of ice. "Let's invite some of our closest friends. I want to make a toast to you that night." She practically glowed with pleasure at the thought. A toast to her. Little did she know, it would be the last toast she'd ever receive. The night of the gala arrived, and I was more composed than ever. Sophia, radiant in her deep red gown, wrapped her arm around mine as we walked into the ballroom. She was completely oblivious, unaware that she was stepping into her own downfall. A room full of people, business elites, press, and high society, watched us, and I kept up the perfect facade. But beneath the surface, I was already preparing to tear her world apart. Among the attendees were the people who helped me make sure she faced the consequences. Mark, my longtime friend who had exposed the betrayal, and Vanessa, Daniel's wife, who had no idea about her husband's affair. Sophia thought she was in control, but she had no idea that the perfect marriage she had so carefully curated was about to unravel in front of everyone she knew. The room was filled with our closest friends, people who always believed we were the perfect couple. A few of my business associates were also there, the kind who would make sure the events of this night spread far beyond these walls. And then there was Daniel, the arrogant fool, completely unaware that tonight would be his downfall too. As the evening unfolded, I played my part flawlessly, the doting husband laughing at Sophia's jokes, refilling her wine, whispering affection in her ear. She leaned into me, convinced she had me wrapped around her finger. Little did she know, I was tightening the noose around her neck. When dinner was served, I stood and tapped my glass, silencing the room. All eyes turned to me. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "thank you for joining us tonight. This evening is special because I get to celebrate my incredible wife, Sophia." She beamed, oblivious to what was coming. "You've been my partner, my love, my everything. And tonight, I wanted to honor you properly." I gestured to the projector screen behind us and pressed play. The room erupted in shock as the screen displayed their messages. Sophia calling me weak, predictable, not enough. Then came the footage, undeniable proof of her and Daniel tangled in his sheets, her moaning his name. Vanessa, Daniel's wife, let out a choked gasp, her face twisting in horror. Sophia shot up, her voice frantic. "Turn it off. Now." I smirked. "Why, darling? Don't you want our friends to see how much fun you've been having?" Daniel stood frozen, eyes darting around the room as whispers spread like wildfire. Vanessa, trembling with rage, flung a glass of champagne in his face before storming out. Sophia turned to me, desperation in her eyes. "Please, we can talk about this." "Talk." I tilted my head. "You didn't seem interested in talking when you were screwing my so-called friend." The room was deathly silent. Then I delivered the final blow. "Oh, and Sophia, since you think I'm weak and predictable, let me prove you wrong. Our prenup ensures cheaters walk away with nothing, which means you're leaving this marriage exactly as you came into it, with nothing." Her breath hitched. "No, you wouldn't." I pulled out my phone. "Just emailed you the signed divorce papers. You're no longer my wife. Enjoy your new life." I glanced at Daniel. Hope she was worth it, because you just lost yours too. Sophia collapsed into her chair, shattered. Daniel clenched his fists, but I only laughed. "You should thank me. Now you two can be together. If Vanessa doesn't take everything you own first." With that, I took a slow sip of my drink and walked out, leaving Sophia drowning in the wreckage of her perfect life. But I wasn't done yet. Vanessa was waiting for me in the hallway, shaking with fury. "That bastard," she seethed. "All this time, he made me feel like I was crazy, while he was screwing your wife." I nodded, humiliating us both. Her expression darkened. Well, he's about to regret every second of it. Turns out, Vanessa wasn't just angry. She was ruthless. She owned the majority stake in Daniel's company. Before the night was over, she made one call to their legal team. Effective immediately, Daniel is removed as CEO. He gets nothing. By the time I got home, Sophia was on the porch, still in her ruined dress, makeup streaked, hair a mess. "Please," she begged, "just listen." "Why?" I crossed my arms. "You didn't care about my feelings when you were in his bed." "I messed up," she sobbed, "but I love you." I laughed. "Is that what you told Daniel while you were moaning his name?" She fell to her knees, clutching at me. "Please, I have nothing left." I pried her hands away. "No, Sophia, you did this to yourself." I stepped inside and locked the door, leaving her in the cold. The next morning, Vanessa and I met for coffee. We had one final move. I recorded Sophia's desperate confession on the porch. Every word of her begging, admitting her betrayal. With Vanessa's help, we made sure the right people heard it. By the week's end, Sophia's reputation was ashes. Daniel was jobless, broke, and divorced. And Vanessa and I, we moved on, richer, happier, and utterly untouchable. Because the best revenge isn't just watching them suffer. It's thriving while they crumble. Was it too far? Or perfectly justified? Let us know what you think. And if you love stories of epic revenge, don't forget to subscribe, and share. Your support keeps these tales coming.